This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
So this is the November 28th meeting of the Public Safety Building Committee. Sarah Stein has written her letter of resignation, so I am sitting in for her today. And the second item on the agenda is to the election of a new chair. Would anyone like to step forward for that position?
I nominate Mark.
I second the nomination.
Wow. I'm not going to second it.
Okay, so Charlie has nominated Mark Darnold. Cindy has seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Great
Did we allow him any opportunity?
No. Mark, you have been nominated and elected. Did you accept the position?
I will accept the position.
All right, that is terrific. Thank you very much. So Mark, I'll hand this meeting over to you then.
Okay.
Are you okay with that, or?
Sure.
Okay.
And would you like to move to this position?
Doesn't matter.
Okay, come on.
Awesome, thanks.
He had it. He was paid
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
There's copies of the current RFQ and agenda.
For your shoulders if you're chilly.
Needs a copy of it. Does anybody?
I'm
John, you want something? You want one of the above?
What's that?
Yeah.
Coming off COVID right now, so that's why.
I'm
John, you want
Doesn't mean a
anything?
thing.
12 days out.
Oh, you
So-
are. This is the new RFQ. Do you need a copy?
I have a
Well, you should.
Welcome to the table.
The round, sort of round table, the exclamation point table.
We'll stay in the back over
So, as the new chairman,
Yeah, yeah.
it looks like we need to elect co-chairs. And
No, that was if there wasn't someone to step forward as a chair. So you have filled the position.
And you're still the co-chair,
Well, no, I'm the vice chair.
vice chair.
So
Vice chair, right.
So there's no need for co-chairs. That was just in case someone wouldn't do it on their own.
Okay. I guess the next agenda that's now Sarah has left, we are down one member. And is there a process that we should go through to solicit some additional members for the committee? And what is the process to do that?
Ed can speak to that.
Rini actually mentioned at the last select board meeting, it has been posted to the town website that we are looking for an additional member for the committee. We did receive an application, which still needs to be followed up with a cover letter today. So hopefully, if we all beat the bushes or whatever, at maybe next week's select board meeting, we'll have some people will have shown some interest, and they'll be able to appoint one for an individual to fill the vacant spot caused by Sarah's resignation.
Now, just clarify, a cover letter, when we applied, we didn't write cover letters. Is that a new thing?
Relatively so.
And so what does that involve, just out of curiosity?
Almost like you're writing a cover letter for a resume, stating your interest and any pertinent background.
Okay, so that really just takes place of what one would say in front of the select board if one were to attend in person, because that's how
If
it's
they
been.
were be able to, yes.
Okay, thank you.
We were finding with the applications that people were being, shall we say, briefer than probably we'd like or whatever, so I don't know how long ago it was, whether it was 6 or 8 months ago or, you know,
Okay.
10 months ago or whatever, the select board added the additional requirement of the cover letter.
Okay, terrific. Thanks.
So it is posted. I did announce it at the last select board meeting, and one person filled out an application. So we'll probably, by the next meeting, potentially have another person to fill Sarah's seat, at large member.
So I guess that's the status of that. I guess the next thing is to approve last week's meeting minutes. Any, have you had a chance to read it or any comments on it?
Go ahead.
I make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's approved. Any update on the senior center RFQ?
Okay, yeah, so I think I mentioned last time there was a really good attendance at the info session that Abacus had. I think 70 people came to the senior center to give feedback, and they're also, Abacus is developing a survey monkey with a lot of the same questions, you know, what brings you to the senior center, what would you like to have in a senior center, you know, what would be your primary reason for coming to a senior center. So that's going to be approved by the committee on Thursday, and that'll be available, I think, you know, online or on the website or whatever. We voted to remove one of the sites. I don't even know if you know this, but you know, we were looking at a lot of the same sites as this committee is. But there was a landowner who contacted the senior center group and said, my land's for sale and could you please consider it? And it was actually land behind East Street. I don't know if you know, but it actually borders Conant Park. But there's no access to East Street without going into the park and then putting a road in to the right. And it's pretty wet back there. So we voted, yeah, so we walked it, and you know, there'd be a lot of positives, you know, having the courts right there and real access to the park. But a few people look back at the Conant Park sort of rules, and we can't put a road in the park. So we voted as a committee to remove that site from consideration. So Abacus is in the process of putting together a PowerPoint that has information, all the feedback on what people have said. They actually put putting bubble diagrams or whatever on the various sites. So it's the two sites on Clark Street, which is Gilliher and Mummer Keystone, Labrie site on College Highway, even though it's not defined exactly where that would be. I think that was sort of an add-on situation. And then the Old Town Hall, which is the current police station, and here. So what they presented last time is that in order to actually have a senior center here, it would most likely have to be a two-story. So they're still looking at the possibility of that not having to be the case. So they're in the process right now, taking all the feedback, taking all the sites, and then it was suggested at the last meeting that the Harley-Davidson building is back on the market. It's $3 million plus. It's way more square footage, way more land, but the committee voted to at least look into, to have Abacus at least do a very cursory review of whether it would be worth considering. So anyway, that's kind of where it's at.
So if it's considered for this building, that would be an addition, a two-story addition to this building?
No, it's a separate actually site. It would be where the fire station is basically, with a parking lot up on the back.
Got it.
And they said something about the different levels that they would be able to do it in such a way that it would not require ramping and, you know, because now it's all about inclusive access, not ramps or anything, just having it be, the access be completely inclusive. I mean, some of the builders would probably be up on what they call that, but they're trying to design it in such a way that it's universal access as opposed to ADA.
Where is this?
So this is one of the diagrams that they did for the actual site here. So this is one of the sites for consideration. So is the current police station. We removed the site that was on East Street, behind East Street, that borders Conant Park, and then the three private sites. So they're kind of still looking at, you know, where would the building, you know, where would it look like on that site. So they're doing bubble diagrams for all the sites that are in consideration. They're also
Including Labrie's?
Yeah, except that I don't think there's a real defined space there because it was more of a add-on, like, yes, would be willing to consider selling, but their primary thing was the public safety complex. So I don't know that they've actually said exactly what they'd be willing to do where. So it's just sort of loosely considered a site. So one of the questions on the survey is, would you want the senior center to be at the town center, near the town center, or outside the town center? So they're just gathering more information and updating a PowerPoint with various data. They're contacting the Conservation Commission about wetlands. They're contacting the Board of Health about perk tests, specifically for the Clark Street sites. So they're just continue to gather all kinds of information, and they're going to be doing a public presentation sometime after the first of the year.
And where was that first site that you mentioned over on?
Clark Street?
Clark Street? Marvin Keystone and Gilliher's.
East Street.
And then East Street is, you know who it is.
I don't know the name
Because
off
they're the
the
ones that
top
wrote
of my
to you
head.
originally.
Champagne?
No, opposite side of the road.
Isn't that where we look for fires, isn't that a lot of wetlands back there?
Yeah, there is,
Same spot?
yeah. We voted to take it off the,
Yeah.
off the
Yeah,
map.
it's a nice
But
spot.
the actual.
Oh, I know where you mean. Is it
Yeah, they
closer down
contacted
here to
you
the
as-
current, it's Wrights? Is
Yes,
that the one?
right,
The
that's
Wrights,
what it is,
uh,
correct,
And it's wet,
yeah.
and it's small. Or-
Well, we voted to take it off for all the above.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not even a consideration right now. And we talked about possibly removing the old town hall from a consideration, because I don't think Abacus thinks it's doable. There's not anywhere near enough land. But we decided that we better not, that we need to make sure that we have all the data, so that when we go to townspeople, if there's any consideration about going to a private site, that we have all the data that we need, because there will be people, just like, public safety, who will not want land being taken out of tax rolls. So we just want to make sure we have all the data. Do you have a question?
Yes, I thought this fire department here
Mm-hmm.
was wetland behind it, and we couldn't build it.
Well, they have all the topographical maps, they have all the wetland maps, they have everything. And what they determined, at least as of now, is that the only way a senior center would fit on this site is if it was a two-story building
Oh.
with a patio, sort of like so that they would have a half second floor, and the other part would be like, you know what, I can actually probably bring it up if anybody
And
really
the other
wants to.
thing that came out of that, because their proposal, unlike a public safety complex a number of years ago, was to actually put the senior center basically where the fire station is currently, and have the parking lot behind it, rather than vice versa. Which also brings into it, if you're going to do that, you've actually added to the cost, because now you at least have to, on a temporary basis, because you're going to have to tear down before you build, find a temporary alternate place for fire and EMS to operate out of.
And that would be a back access with elevator down to the front? Is that, people would be entering at the higher level, or both levels, either level? Is that what's being proposed?
Well, actually, their first proposal was, they actually had what I would call a drop-off area where the parking lot, the front side parking lot currently is, so they could drop people off and then they would park behind it. I brought up the point that, well, that's fine for the people that are getting dropped off,
yes.
but you still have one person in that vehicle that is going up and parking behind it, which would have to walk down to a different level. Or you might have somebody that is coming on their own and can't be dropped off, so they're parking behind it. So again, if you wanted to make it accessible, now you got to do something for a second floor entrance and have an elevator.
So I'll just show you quickly. This is kind of what they're just doing on all of the sites, that they're seeing where would it fit. So if you can see, that's where the gazebo is. It would be right basically where the fire station, with all of this being parking. And then they did the same thing for the site on Clark Street. They mapped out the actual outline of the lot, and then they said where could it go with the parking. So they're just doing that for all the sites right now. It's all very preliminary. Want to see that? Sorry. It's all very preliminary at this particular point, but they're going over and mapping out where the property lines are. That's the current police station. That's the Clark Street sites. And yeah, so this is the current town hall site. So they're basically just saying that, and the thing is that they're saying 14,000 square feet. We had talked about 10. So they're, a little bit, I don't know, it's not final. I just wanted to kind of let you know what's happened so far.
So my question about this would be when we're considering, or the same site is being considered for both, and this being this one. If Abacus were to decide that this site is the ideal site, or the preferred site, then that eliminates, I mean, will that supersede it as a possibility for the public safety complex?
I think that if it got to the point, don't forget, they're doing something different than this committee is, and I have debated about whether or not what we're doing is the right one here. They're taking all the properties, and my guess is that they'll probably narrow it down to 2 or 3.
Right.
One of them would probably be here, one would probably be Clark Street, or both Clark Street, whatever. But I think that they're going to be doing the feasibility study and taking it to the end, saying, here's what it would look like here, here's what it looked like here, here's what it looked like here. We're saying to our firm, narrow it down to 1 and then proceed with the rest. That's a big difference. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I'm just saying that, so we're not going to, I think by the end, theirs is going to be due in like March. So at that particular point, we'll meet the obligation of the will, which is by May, a final plan, and then where we go from there would probably be a joint meeting with this committee. Because I don't think any decision is going to be made. Although, if we do get the 2.5 million fully, as opposed to it being dispersed separately, if we do meet the, order of the will, then there would be money to purchase land if it came to that, or to get started on something or whatever. So, nothing. I don't think anything's going to happen. I mean, our new date for the final feasibility thing is at November 1st. Did you have a question, Barbara?
November 1st of next year.
Yeah.
Charlie, you got a question?
Observation,
Yeah.
the timelines are not coherent to make that happen.
Yeah.
What's going to happen, based on what I'm seeing,
Yeah.
is the timelines for the senior center are going to drive their location.
Mm-hmm.
Before we settle on where we're at, the senior center is already going to be decided as to where it's going to be.
I don't think so. I think what's going to happen by the end of we might vote as a committee, like let's say in May, we might say, okay, we got this feasibility done and our preferred site would be, don't forget the will said we have to have a final plan. So, I think that we're not going to proceed and say, we're going to have our senior center on the existing town hall property here without having it, be worked together with the public safety committee. I don't.
But the time frame for the public safety committee's RFQ
Yeah.
is so far out
Yeah.
versus the necessity of you having a final plan,
Mm-hmm.
that the window of opportunity for discussion relative to this is going to fall back on the senior center making a decision,
Mm-hmm.
and that's going to drive the public safety complex out of a site. Now, I don't mean that in a negative.
Yeah, I know.
But that's what's
Yeah.
going to happen.
That's what I was
Especially
wondering.
when you're going to get your decision, you're going to have a final plan. We can't have a final plan until you actually have the decision of what property you're using.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it may or may not drive it out of the site, depending on what site is chosen.
Right.
If the site is big enough to house both of them,
Well,
then it
if
has been
the-
driven out.
Right, if that occurs, yes, I agree with you. That's one of those things out in orbit that Lord knows what's going to happen. But at this point in time, I think the senior center decision is going to drive what happens with this committee in relationship to location.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure what, yeah, I was, when the minutes were written for last meeting, and again, they haven't been approved yet, there was a comment about that whole time frame, and it says, well, and I had reported that we didn't have any responses to the RFQ. The feeling was that well, we have to proceed, so to speak. And I was like, well, yes and no. I mean, we have to proceed together was my original thinking on it. So we don't want to sacrifice the money that we got, and we want to make sure that we work together as two committees. So however we need to make that happen, both happen, we need to make it happen. So if you have suggestions on how we can...
Not only committees have to work together, but the potential for architectural firms or design firms also ultimately are going to have to work together, because I just heard maybe both could be on one site. I mean, yes, maybe it's, we own this property right here in town, more excavation is involved. On the other hand, we're not trying to build something in another place. It strikes me as, where are we saving or maybe losing money? You know.
Yeah, I think we need to come together as a joint committee meeting at some point, and have this discussion and figure out how do we proceed together and not lose 2.5 million. I think those are the two questions.
You're talking about the 2.5 million in the will.
In the will, because if we don't have a final plan, and believe me, we brought in an attorney who, by the way, the attorney that met with Mr. Parsons is not the attorney who's interpreting the will.
Oh, okay.
So we brought that person in, and she came to a meeting and basically explained the interpretation of final plan. It doesn't have to be shovels in the ground, but we have to have a plan in mind of what the next step is to proceed. So we may need to also involve an attorney in that meeting, that attorney too, to just say, okay, because I think the goal is to have it be a joint committee decision and not lose the money in the will in its entirety for this project.
But it really has thrown a monkey wrench in to have had no response. Time. As far as working in lockstep.
The other thing that happened at the meeting is Abacus, when I mentioned, because I report to them on our progress, when I mentioned that there were no responses, they were very surprised. They said they rattled off at least 4 communities that are building public safety complexes in the eastern part of the state. So at the next meeting, which is Thursday, I'm going to ask them what those towns are. I don't know if they're aware of it just because of the, you know, because they saw, you know, the RFQs, or they just know what's in the circuit. But I'm going to ask them which communities they are. So it makes me wonder whether or not our time frame was the primary reason. It didn't necessarily have to do with nobody's building, you know, safety complexes anymore, because they were very surprised. And also, this is, again, a bit of a conflict, but I'll just report it since it was mentioned. When the chair of the committee for a senior center building committee heard that there were no RFQs, he said, wow, my firm, he works for an architectural firm in Boston, might have wanted to bid on that. So I don't know why I didn't know about it. I don't know what the story was, but I think there's a lot more potential, and I'm hoping that the changes that we made will have more people interested, because certainly there were at least 17 people that asked for qualifications.
So it was publicized. Everything was done right. It was.
Might have been the timing, might have been the turnaround, I don't know.
Yeah.
So anyway, if you have any suggestions on how to, you know, bring these more in sync, I mean, it's 2 years from the date of his death, which is May of 2023, to basically have a final plan. And at the same time, we won't know what's happening here until, you know, I mean, once we, if we do have, I think the date was February 13th to engage a firm, or the end of February, something like that. So, I don't know.
Just a question, if the town doesn't approve the additional money to support it, what happens to that 2.5 million?
That's a good question. I think that we don't lose it until...
As long as the town has that
final plan,
they get the money and
it goes
from the will. Right, exactly.
So there's a group of 4 of us that get together from the Council on Aging Board, and as you may have heard, Senator Vilas had helped secure $50,000 of ARPA money for the senior center. So we put together a little subgroup to, you know, brainstorm on ways of spending it. And one particular member wanted to hire a fundraiser, knowing that we're going to need it, was going to bring in the friends. So I think people are already thinking about a capital campaign and trying to think ahead a little bit about maybe using some of the funds that we do have, whether it be from the will or from ARPA, and try to hire somebody who can guarantee to bring in, because she was part of a group in Holyoke that did that, and they were able to reach a goal by bringing in a professional fundraiser. Because all of us, we're all doing all we can, but to go to all the banks and go to all the businesses and all that, it's going to be tough. So I think that even if it wasn't approved, I think that the senior center knows, I think that they're going to have to do some heavy-duty fundraising before they go to the voters. I don't think they're not planning on going to the voters for this particular special town meeting, I don't believe. But I could be wrong about that.
You mentioned possibly having a joint meeting between our two committees.
Yeah.
Because meetings are 2 weeks apart and time flies. Is
Yeah.
that something we should start thinking about scheduling?
Yeah, I mean, if we look at this and we approve the dates, because we talked about getting it up today, but since Ed and I revised it, we figured we'd let the committee just give a quick eyeball and agree on everything. Then we could sort of backtrack, well, it's due by this date, we'll engage a firm, I think, by the 24th of February, then their feasibility study is supposed to be done by March. So somewhere in there, we need to have a joint meeting.
Really, the land on Clark Street, whether it's Gilliher or Marvin Keystone, correct? It's either one of those parcels, am I correct?
Both, well, they're both under consideration, yeah.
Is there any headway with Marvin Keystone breaking that parcel up or no?
No, and that's pretty wet in the back there. And what they're trying to do is they're just trying to preserve the site that they need for their building and get rid of the rest. And because of that extra L-shaped lot in the back that's very wet, it's making Gilliher's probably look better. But Gilliher wants a road to access the back, to the land that he has in the back there. And I think there were some test wells because of the oil thing, but it's already been sort of cleared. It's, I think, the site next to it, Heritage, where there's still monitoring, but there's no further monitoring. So that's why they're contacting the Board of Health, is to get the perks test on both of those sites. And they're contacting the Conservation Commission for the same thing. So I think my sense is that Gilliher's site is rising above most of them.
Explain the thing about the road. Does he expect a road to be
He
built?
wants a road
at
from Clark Street to access the property in the back.
At town's cost?
He needs an easement which is left to access
Yeah.
his property.
Is he going to build it, or does he want the town to build this road? Is it to become a public road?
He would, I believe. I'm not sure if it would be an easement. I'm not really sure. Because what happened was when, in the drawing that Abacus did of that particular property, they had the building here, they had the parking lot here, they had the road going through the parking lot, and this seniors group said, no, that's not a good plan. So I don't know what they're going to come back with. But I think the issue there might be frontage for those sites.
If I remember right, that's zoned industrial.
It isn't, it is, it's all
So
zoned
that
industrial.
means that any roadway that would have a right of passage through the senior center may be subjected to heavy trucks and everything else if something
Yeah.
else develops.
If
Just
it's
pointing out
developable, if it's wet back there, what else could he build?
Well, it's all sand back there.
Yeah.
Once you get past the lots that he's trying to sell the town, it becomes sand and gravel on the Nolac there.
He owns all the farm land.
Yeah, I know, yeah, I do know
This is a
that.
little chart right here, so it says status town owned, owner willing to sell, blah, blah, blah. Then they have the number of acres and they have partial. So the only one that they have wetlands is the East Street one, which we voted off. And then Marmon Keystone and Two St. Paul's have it. The rest of them they have down as no, including Gilliher's. And there is a, I'll show you, there is a, I'll try to show you the Clark Street one, is 80th Street. So there's the Clark Street. So if they were going to put in the senior center, it would be there with this here. All of this is just extra money that it's not worth doing. And then the 79 Clark is, or 89 Clark rather, is here, with the parking lot here, the senior center there. And when we asked about, wait a minute, he wants a road, my sense is they would probably put it here.
But even if they do, which all well and fine, be aware that the rest of his property is industrial.
Yeah.
So if he decides that he wants to put some kind of manufacturing facility out there
Yeah,
with trailer trucks going there, they're going right by the senior center.
yeah. Well, other than going and walking the property with the realtor from Keystone Holman, and also the other, hasn't been any swinging back to him or anything. This is all just, they're in the process of like putting all this together.
I'm just throwing out
Yeah.
information that I'm aware of so that you have an understanding of what else is
Yeah,
potential out there.
yeah.
Is that available online?
No, because it's not, they're still revising this, and then this is they're reviewing this every time. They keep adding more data. I mean, at the end of the PowerPoint, they go into actually starting some potential design, senior center designs, like this. So, I mean, it's all, every time we meet, and by the way, you're welcome, it's on Zoom every other week on Thursday, so if you want to go on the town website, you can certainly catch the meetings. It's 12:30, I think this one is 12 on Thursday. So they just kind of keep revising this based on more information they get, more information they give us. So right now, they're just continuing to evaluate all the sites and evaluating the design. They're talking to the Board of Health and the Conservation Commission at this point. And like I said, last time we just voted to remove a site. And then they compile all the data in terms of why people would come to a senior center, and so what rooms to have, what ones not to have, that sort of thing. So this isn't really published yet because it's just an ongoing draft that they present and we go over every meeting.
So what's the acreage that they need for senior center?
I think same, I think it was like 3 acres.
That
Maybe
sounds
less.
right. That sounds right, 2 to 3 acres, but 3 I would.
Maybe 2 to 3, right?
Yeah.
And I think that the total land, including the additional land that we bought where the old Grange was, is not even 2. So my sense, like I said, for that reason and parking and everything else, I think that's probably going to be removed. And as of right now, the only design they can show on this site is a 2-story, which has its definite disadvantages. But maybe not. Northampton has a 2-story. My town in Walpole has a 2-story.
Westfield has a 2-story.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a deal breaker, but right now they can't, they haven't proposed anything else.
Definitely need an elevator, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a given.
Yeah, yep. Anyway, so if we want to, before we leave, if we want to propose like a time to meet with them based on their timetable, our timetable, that would be a good thing to do, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Megan,
February?
such on?
February?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think so.
yeah.
Possible joint meeting February.
But, yes,
So.
we don't get on the schedule, it won't happen.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think the dates that we put on this is,
For this, page 4?
yeah. So we put down execute a contract by February 26th.
So that makes it timely.
Yeah. So January 12th is when we expect anybody interested to submit to Ed. And then there's a time period for interviews if needed. And then we would submit it to the select board by 13th and execute a contract by the 26th. And I'm pretty sure the senior center RFQ is due back by March. So we'll plan for February.
That works.
Should we do the first, is it a Monday or do we want to do a Thursday? What works best? In terms of what's that committee?
I think the 3 engineers and architects are all working.
Okay.
And I think it's very difficult for them to, they have Zoom meetings from work. So it's usually at 12 or 12:30 on Thursdays. They kind of do it as their lunch break.
It's okay with me for Zoom.
Works for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Thursday, so ask if we can join in on a,
So do it at the time of the senior center one? And
yeah, if everybody could make that on Zoom.
Not a problem for me.
Is this every Thursday?
No, it's every other Thursday.
But we'll just, for the meetings, it would be,
Well,
Is it the first and the third Thursday, Rini, of the month?
Pardon?
Is it the first and third Thursdays of the month, usually?
It's not it's on a rolling basis. And I don't know whether it's going to change because of the holidays.
Okay.
I know that we're meeting this
Okay.
Thursday.
Early Thursday, noon, early February. To be determined.
Works.
Let me see what it says here, feasibility study committee timeline. Oops, maybe that's not done. Do you remember when it's due back by, Ed?
The senior center one?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Like March 15th or something?
Yeah.
Either the 14th or the 15th sticks in my head.
So if we do February, that would even be before we officially engage a firm. But we know who's applied.
Yeah, but
Okay.
but the firm is not going to have any information the day we hire them.
Right. I think that's the perfect time, actually.
Okay.
Before anybody gets started on our end, but before it's officially done on their end.
But we don't have an official date yet, just February. early February.
Correct. We're waiting.
It would be a Thursday at noon by Zoom, but we don't have a specific date.
Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, the RFQ, we know it's in March somewhere. If you want to propose a date, I'll bring it Thursday. If you want to look at the,
It's the 2nd or the 9th or the 16th. In February, those are Thursdays. Wide open for me.
I'm open.
I don't have a book for next year, but I'm sure it's fine. Oh, Wednesday, it's not a Wednesday, so that's fine.
Let's
So
go.
what were those dates?
The Thursdays are the 2nd, the 9th, and the 16th of February of next year. And how about if we just say the 9th, right in the middle of
Okay.
that? Okay? Do you want to propose that?
And then, you know what, if, we'll end up meeting in January anyway. And
Yes.
if we end up needing to change it, then, because I think it would be helpful if it's on the every other calendar.
So Thursday, what time?
Noon
Noon.
via Zoom, joint meeting.
Yeah.
So we'll have to post.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good to me. And between now and then, we can come up with very clear questions and discussion points.
Yeah.
Any other question or update on the senior center?
Nope. Anybody else have any questions about it?
I just want to clarify one thing. Everyone is comfortable that it's going along such that there is no currently any chance of losing that money in the will at this point. You got some reassurance from the attorney that you're moving along, and it's not in jeopardy as far as everybody thinks. Good.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, it's moving right along.
Good.
Okay, I guess we move on to the revised RFQ. I'll make the first comment, the cover page date needs to be changed, so I found the easy mark.
Oh, submission deadline. Oh, because that had originally said the old date anyway. So anyway. Ed, I guess you have it at this point. Do you want me to make any changes?
No, I'll take care of it.
Okay.
Well, that has been changed to 2023, November 1st.
But it should be December
No, it should be-
12th.
No, it should be January
That's
12th.
actually-
January
that's
12th,
actually the
2023 on the cover.
End date for them to finish.
Yeah.
the Study.
I think you had highlighted it, so I think I just went ahead and changed it by mistake.
So it should say January 12th.
It should say January
2023.
12, 2023.
January 12th, 2023.
Would confuse the applicants to see that.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it?
But then the feasibility study completion date
That is-
remains December 12th, or is
No,
that?
November
No,
1st.
Rini and I looked at that, and it was really,
It was longer than it.
it was longer than need be, so we rolled it back by about 6 weeks to November 1st, 2020.
Okay.
So, other than the dates changing, I just kind of changed it based on what we had previously said, so as soon as this committee approves it, it'll be posted, and then there's a couple of weeks for written questions. And then the qualifications will be due January 12th, so a couple weeks after the holidays. And then if we need to, there's a couple weeks of interviews if need be. And then engaging somebody, the contract by the end of February, with it being due in November 1st. March, April, May, June, July, August, November, October. So 8 months. Just seems plenty.
I move to approve as modified or redacted.
Okay.
Yeah, and the only changes would be, other than the due date of the study itself, would be in the minimum evaluation criteria, which Rini did, and then in comparative evaluation criteria, which I did. I ruled 1, 2, and 3, the highly advantageous and advantageous, forward.
And what I put was just matched what we decided on last time, just, loosening up the criteria a little bit, and just saying 5 years of experience. And I included police stations, fire EMS stations, or any combination thereof. So it was basically what you had already said, but we just matched the qualifications with the criteria. So hopefully that'll make it a little bit.
And then before the committee actually approves this, I have one other thing to ask the committee, because there is an appendix that lists the properties that they look at. And I would like to ask the committee if it's realistic to list the highway department at 8 Farmer Road. And I'm going to preface it this. Okay, there's not a traffic concern or wetland concern or anything else. However, would the fact that if that 8 Farmer Road stays in consideration and was chosen, that the town would now have to fund probably somewhere between a $4 and $7 million highway project, would that actually, because I believe we have financial constraints, should that fact actually eliminate that particular property from consideration?
I guess my response on that, I agree with you. I think, I'm assuming that the architect would quickly eliminate that. There is a slight potential to fit it on the side, but I don't think it's going to work. I think it's a long, long shot. So I would suggest, agree with you, that we go ahead and eliminate that. It's going to be a tough shot, and it's going to be coordination, construction nightmare during construction to keep both facilities operating, and even tough operating both facilities after they're completed, having highway and fire and EMS all going out of the same place, police.
Yeah, if we could even operate them at the same place or have to find another location for the highway department.
I agree with both of you, that should be on the table.
Yeah. I think we were obligated to look at all town properties, but I think in hindsight, trying to make it more realistic and more feasible for the consultant to proceed efficiently, that we could consider eliminating it.
So is there a proposal to eliminate?
The motion.
Yeah, but
Second.
we already have another motion on the floor. We haven't voted on
Sorry,
it.
it's never seconded.
Yes, it was. Chief Workman seconded the first
Oh,
motion.
my
Yeah,
God,
I
it just
did.
jumps right into it. I
I
withdraw
did.
my motion.
You're withdrawing it?
Your motion was to accept this RFQ.
Right.
Right, but
Okay,
it also
we're about to
includes, so
amend it.
now we're backing it up to talk about the properties that are going
Okay,
to be
so you're
on the
withdrawing the
RFQ.
motion.
I'm
Okay,
withdrawing it
sorry.
simply because we want to look at this highway thing that's on the end of it.
All
that we
right.
don't really want to see. there.
Okay, great.
So if you remember, we looked at all town property that could be the least bit used, and I think we got rid of the
Yeah.
transfer station, we got rid of a lot of sites, but these two ended up being,
Do we feel somewhat compelled to offer 2? And that's what kind of led us to at least say the highway department site, and now you're pointing out all the negatives that are
Yeah.
reasonable. Well, keep in mind, if your building ends up being on this property, that would necessitate the fire department go somewhere anyway. So I'm just being a devil's advocate. I also want to just make sure that I know there's a lot of voices in town that feel strongly about town-owned property tax rules, because we hear about it all the time. So I support it. I'm just trying to be a devil's advocate, that's all.
Procedure also, didn't we go to the select board and have them sort of approve our list before we move forward?
Oh, that's a very good question.
Good idea.
We could leave it on there for now.
I would suggest that we formally vote to withdraw it. We approve the RFQ with that modification, subject to final approval from the select board.
Well, except for this factor that it's not going to get issued on November 28th. If that's the case, if it needs final approval of the select board, so it's going to push everything else out about a week. Just so you know that. I'll have to change the dates by about a week.
I say we leave it as it is and vote it and get it up there.
And get it up there, and then we can
And
change
then,
it once
because, you know,
somebody comes in.
Seniors just, you know, the group just decided to take a property off, like, last week, and it's already been, so I think we can decide to take a property off at any particular time, but I don't want to hold this up.
Yeah, I think we need to get this out again.
Yeah.
Then I move to approve the document as modified and redacted.
Okay.
Your original?
You don't remember?
You want to second the original?
I'll second that original
Why you
again.
retiring now, I know.
No.
It's been moved and seconded. Anybody opposition? All in favor?
I
Approved.
But I think that's something we can do with any of the properties for that matter, or even adding, like I said, we asked our advocates to look at the Harley Davidson thing, even though I don't know that much is going to come out of it.
Again, I think the study, the early
Yeah.
part of the study will hopefully
Yeah.
filter that out.
Yeah. I think there's the issue of the use of the highway department, and also it being on the list could potentially hold up things to happen to that building that might need to happen.
Correct.
And I don't want that to
Yeah,
happen.
we've already had one objection at a select board meeting for consideration
Well, yeah.
under, shall we say, an energy saving proposal, because that particular property and location was listed for consideration.
So why would we vote in favor of that if it's
Yeah.
might be changed anyway? So we have to decide so that we don't hold up that department, I think.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other business that anyone wants to discuss?
I just wanted to ask if, I know, Joan, I felt that it was very helpful to actually get that tour of South Hadley. It was pretty detailed. I learned a lot about spaces for the police department. If we're going to be ambassadors for this to happen, I'm just wondering if people would still be interested in visiting Hadley at some point.
Sure.
Like
I mean,
after
I'd
the
be more than
holidays?
happy to- Yeah, for Granby.
Okay.
Yeah, more than happy to set that up.
Granby, yeah.
Yeah, I know what you meant.
Yeah, I figured.
So, yeah, if there's any others that people have heard of that would like to, I mean, I can certainly reach out.
Mhm.
You know, pretty accommodating.
Sure.
But, yeah, South Hadley's a little bit different because they have 2 stations.
Yeah. No, I meant Granby.
Yep. I'm sorry,
I've been-
and I'm actually in Hadley, not
Yeah.
South Hadley. So Hadley has 2 stations. So, yes, I can set
Right,
up.
they have the North Hadley.
Yeah, so I can set
That
that.
North Hadley one is really interesting because it's on, am I thinking of the right one? It sort of looks like it's on a ledge and it's got a library attached to it. Am I confusing it with something else?
I don't know.
What
I
route
can't-
is that on?
I'm trying to
Is it
think.
202?
It is, no, it's,
No, it's way down.
what is it? 46 or whatever?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
but
it's way down. on
Yeah, way
47.
down, almost in Sunderland.
Yeah, and I don't think it's on a hill because
No, it's
I've gone there
Then I'm
for
thinking of
meetings
something
and I
else
believe
that's a
they're-
public
That's the one that
safety
just
bill.
built?
it's a drive-through.
The new one?
They have I forget what, I think that, they are just a fund for a new one. Honestly, I'd have to check to be
They're
sure.
in the process of building a new one.
Yeah.
It's in the design process of that.
Yeah, so I'd have to see what that's like. But I can get all that sort of plan information, and the chief there is very accommodating, great guy.
Spink,
And so,
he's good.
yeah, Spink. And he would be more than happy to sit with us and talk to us and give us some ins and outs of what he went through and what he's got.
Mhm.
So happy to set that up.
How many bays do they have, do you know?
In that original bay, I want to say they have probably at least 4 in that main station, and then they have double-ended, at least 1 drive-through, and then another section, I want to say.
Mhm.
But that's shooting from the hip. It's been probably a year since I've been in that station just for a
Have you
meeting.
been there? Have you been in the Hadley one? No?
Yeah, well, because one of them's a public safety, and then the other is just a fire.
Right, the North
Yep.
Hadley is the.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it'd be great. I've been in the building before, but it'd be nice to
Yeah,
get
the
a
new one's nice enough.
nice
you know.
tour.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, any other business? Need to set up a next meeting? We will meet in 2 weeks, or, I don't know what,
I don't know if we need to meet, I mean, do you feel
there's
like
not
we
gonna
need
be
to
a
meet?
lot happening
Yeah.
on this project in the next 2 weeks.
Maybe after the holidays? What do you think?
Yeah, I think January.
Mhm.
Okay. January 2nd is a Monday.
Following
That might not be a great day.
The day after New Year's.
That's
A lot of groggy people here.
Partying wildly,
Wait a
I just,
minute.
doesn't sound like it's a good idea.
An orange juice you drink in?
Extended vacation or something.
How about the Monday the 9th?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Ninth, same
Okay.
time, same bat
Yeah,
station?
yeah, that sounds
January
good.
9th, 4:30. Why was 4:30 chosen? Was that accommodating somebody, like Sarah? Was that part of it? It's okay with me, I just wondered if that was...
Yeah, that's a good question.
If it's fine, then... it's a good-
Earlier would be, they'll be happy with earlier.
I wouldn't mind a little bit earlier,
Well,
3 or 4.
Who's working besides
I-
the
I
two
mean,
chiefs that are
I think
always
John
working?
is too, isn't he? John
No.
O'Shea, he's not.
No, he's not, actually.
Yeah, no, he's a retired guy.
Okay. It's tough for me, but,
Earlier
Oh,
is
right,
time
right,
for
right.
you,
Okay, well,
then let's
stick
stay
with
with
it.
4:30.
Yeah.
I'm
That's fine.
flexible
Is
anytime.
4:30 better, or do you want to go
I,
later?
yeah, I make that work, no.
Yeah,
no.
4:30, yeah.
4:30 to 6
4:30
is
works.
fine.
4:30, Town Hall. Okay. I can post the meeting for you if you want, Mark. I don't know if you've had access to it. My town government.
I'm very new at this job.
Well, thank you for stepping up, though. That was very
Yes,
nice
thank
of you.
You can come up with the agenda and I can post it for you because I have access to
Okay.
that, to using it.
All right.
And I know Ed could do it, so.
All right, that's it, I guess, motion to adjourn,
So moved.
Second.
all approved?
Aye.
Thank you for coming.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.